What just happened?
What just happened?
What just happened?
What just happened?
What the f happened?
What just happened? I'm Dan. That's Julia. And today we're here to talk Goosebumps episode 6 called Night of the Living Dummy. But, Jules, before we get into it, obviously they did a 5-episode drop, which is insane. Why not just drop the whole thing at that point? But hey, whatever, do what you want to do, I guess. Disney Plus / Hulu, because it's on both services. They decided to do this for Goosebumps. What we're going to do quickly is just mention our favorite parts of those 4 episodes that we didn't cover. So mine would be James's episode with the clock.
Yes.
I think that was really cool. I love those types of movies when you see you're like stuck in a time loop, like Groundhog Day type thing. I've always liked that type of story. So I really gravitated towards that one. And I thought it was cool how they did it, where at the end of episode 2, James explodes and you're like, did that really just happen?
Like, no way that happened, right?
yeah. Like, is that's serious? That really happened. And then, of course, they explain it. He had all these duplicates, and all you had to do was bop him in the head.
Are we good? We good.
And they would explode. So yeah, I thought that was the best one. I really enjoyed that one a lot. But I think overall, I'm pretty satisfied. Like, we've had some people arguing in the comments from our first video whether or not they should have made this story in general. Should they brought Goosebumps back? I say yes, because the last ones in my, like, the last taste of my mouth of Goosebumps was the Jack Black movies, and that didn't really feel like Goosebumps to me. And this this does more than that anyway. You know, not to put down those movies, but the stories of Goosebumps with the books and back in the day, the show, it was always, okay, let's focus on one story. Let's tell that story and then move on. And that's what they're doing with the show.
Yeah, but they're doing such a good job of like taking those individual stories and like combining them into one storyline. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, they did.
I personally really like it.
Yeah, I like, you know, with the whole Harold Biddle story, and we got more background in this episode that we'll talk about in a second. But like you said, they've really combined everything to be like his house. And then everything comes out of that. And then you get those separate storylines that all branch off. And you have these crazy, crazy things that are happening. And it's just like insane. The one thing I miss, though, and I wonder if you miss it too, I wish they would do it at least once. Start the episode off with R.L. Stine carrying his briefcase. Just once.
Oh my God, that would be so cool.
Just one time, maybe the season finale. I think that would be really neat. I'm having a good time. This is really, it's bringing me back to being scared shitless as a little kid, because that's what I would do to myself while I was watching Goosebumps. It's funny, my wife said, this is kind of too scary for kids to watch. And I was like, well, it's not really for kids. It's more so for like teenagers. It's not really for like kids.
It's aimed at the people who read this stuff as kids.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned to my mom that we were doing this, and she's like, oh my God, I used to love those books. I was like, yeah, I know. It's fantastic. And now I can love it as an adult too.
I know. I remember going to like book fairs and grabbing 1 or 2 of them and just being so excited that I got a Goosebumps book, and it felt so cool. And so it's really nostalgic, and I'm having a good time. And I know there are people arguing in the comments whether they should have made the show or not. And I thought it was interesting to read those arguments. And I'm on the side of, I think this is good. I think it's quality.
And like I can understand where people are coming from, but I think this is a real easy series to just like have a good time with and not really have to worry about like, I'm not really thinking about like what they could do better, because they're doing a pretty damn good job of it.
Yeah, and the casting is pretty damn good. Like, there's a lot of recognizable people, and then of course Justin Long. So like, I think it's solid. This episode, obviously, I was excited about it. My boy, Mr. Slappy, he's back. So Night of the Living Dummy. So it starts off with how episode 5 ended. Nathan invites all the kids into the house.
You guys want to know what's in the case? Come inside. I'll tell you.
Because they just saw all these moments relived with that magical book, and they saw events play out which really looked like their parents are murderers. And we're gonna get that story, and you know, they kind of are. Like, it's kind of their fault, I guess. It's up for an argument, but it's like, if they didn't go to the house that night, he probably wouldn't have died. So,
well, I mean, not that night, maybe.
Not that night, right?
Listen, Slappy really likes ruining people's lives, so I'm sure at some point something would have gone horribly wrong.
He does. So we get the story.
The story begins with my great-grandfather in 1925 in New York City.
Ephraim the Great, back in New York City in 1925, he was basically like a struggling artist. I don't know if he was like really a magician, but like, I guess so. Just like an
performer.
Yeah, performer. He was struggling, so he stumbles upon Slappy, buys Slappy. His wife's pissed off that he spent the money on that, but guess what? Turns out to be a big hit because he read the phrase on Slappy, which animates Slappy, brings him to life, which gives him an element that nobody else can have. It's like the best ventriloquism you could ever imagine because the doll's actually alive. So he becomes super famous. His head gets really big. He becomes evil. He leaves his family so he can keep doing this. He's going to keep going with it, but then he does that spell to turn that man into a doll.
Ninu, Sanara. Gosh! What are you doing? No.
And then he sees Slappy's plan to like burn down the building and kill people. So he kind of gets his stuff together and is like, okay, this is coming to an end. I'm going to lock Slappy away. I did wonder why he wouldn't just burn that phrase that animates him, but I guess you can't.
Right.
Because we saw later that you can't burn him.
Well, I mean, I was going to say the dummy won't burn, so.
Yeah, so I'm guessing it's the same type of thing with that piece of paper.
Okay, he did a shit job of hiding that case that he was in.
Yeah, just right into the wall. Yeah,
like you could just punch that brick and it would come out.
Yeah, exactly. It's like if you really wanted no one to find it ever again, you could have like
you could have done way better than that.
Dug like a 20-foot hole or something. Like you could have done something better than that. You know, he ends up moving to Port Lawrence, which ends up being the Biddle House.
You are the proud new owner of this lodge.
He grew old. He stashed Slappy into the wall, like we just said. And then we flash forward to 1993. And this is when the Biddles move into the house. Ephraim's daughter that he never had a relationship with is Harold's mother. So that's the connection there. They move into the Biddle house. And I thought it was cool that Harold immediately found the mask that was in episode 2. Well, it was episode 1 and 2, but more so episode 2 when we saw that story play out. They had a conversation about worms that apparently have 5 hearts. So I learned something today. I didn't know that.
Well, do worms even have brains?
Of course, they have brains. They have 5 hearts. How many hearts does a golden retriever have?
Oh, so
yeah, that was an interesting one.
So then Harold's father gave Harold the Polaroid.
It's a Polaroid camera.
Again, we saw this Polaroid again. So then he takes the Polaroid to school, which leads him to meet Sarah and Nora because they're in the photography club, who are the parents of Margot and Lucas. It's kind of hard to keep it all together with a past and present type thing, but it works though. It does work. And I think especially Nora, they cast perfectly for her.
Oh my God. Yes.
Yeah. And they look so similar. It could be the same person. Things seem to be going nicely. You know, he's worried that he's going to be bullied again. He was bullied at his old school. So he comes to this new school. He's really worried about it. He gets invited to a party. Things seem to be going well. He develops a crush on Sarah, but he kind of panics, doesn't go to the party. He chickens out. This causes him to have a bit of anger. So he throws something at the wall and you can hear Slappy calling out.
There you go.
So here we go. Pulls Slappy out, sees the card in his pocket. Of course, he reads the card.
Karu, Mari, Odona, Loma, Malonu, Karena.
Okay, here's my other thing. Why are they all reading it out loud?
Yeah, right.
Like when I'm by myself, I'm not necessarily like, not that I've never done it, but I'm not necessarily going to be like reading this, especially if it's something that I'm definitely not going to be able to read on the first try.
Yeah. It animates him. So he decides to take Slappy to the school talent show. And Slappy does what Slappy does.
Try having it up your ass.
It's a hit. People think it's really cool.
Yeah.
See, with me, you won't be a loser.
And that Harold did a good job as a ventriloquist, of course, because that's the best job you could do if you had a doll that was alive. So he does a good job. And then Sarah ends up touching his hand, which Jules, if a girl that I had a crush on in high school touched my hand, forget about it. I'm over the moon.
Yeah.
Over the moon. That's like the best thing that could possibly happen in high school. So everything's going well up until the point you get to a point where things get too serious. So Nora sees Slappy talking to Harold and it really freaks her out, especially the kind of stuff that Slappy was saying.
Sarah doesn't like you. She feels sorry for you. I'm the only one you can trust.
So it really freaks Nora out. And she told Sarah, she's all freaked out. We see Harold's parents. They're not happy with what's going on with this relationship with Slappy. So they decide they want to burn it. They do this because Harold was a dick to his mom. He called her a witch.
His name is Slappy, you witch!
And they were really upset with him. So they're like, fuck this. Let's burn the thing. Let's get rid of it. We'll tell him it was an accident.
He's gonna freak out.
We'll tell him it was an accident. It got too close to the fire.
Of course, he walks in on it. The doll won't burn, though. So we find out that you can't just burn it. Walks in on it, tells him to do the spell that we saw Ephraim do earlier that turned the other guy into a doll, basically killing his two parents. I mean, I guess that's what happens when you turn someone into a doll, right? They just die.
I guess.
Right?
This is bringing me back to like Servant. But
Yeah, me too.
I haven't seen anything about them turning one of the dolls back into a human, so I'm gonna assume that they just stay a doll. So.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess that's the end for them. So he, kills his parents, and because Slappy has taken hold of his life, and then we get to the point where he does another show at school, and he calls out every single kid who end up being the parents of the main cast in the show.
The answer is Eliza Etten, when she fled the scene after nailing the principal's Oldsmobile in the parking lot last year.
All of the people that had something to do with his death, because they were the ones that went to go steal Slappy. But we see why they wanted to do that, because Slappy was calling them out, saying their secrets.
Port Lawrence's star quarterback.
Yeah, do me. Bring it on.
And just like really stuff that you don't want to get out.
Victoria thinking people are still buying the Virgin Act.
Especially not on your own terms. Yeah. If that stuff gets out, you want to say it your own.
To be fair, that's Sarah's big mouth fault.
Yeah, that's true. It ends with them saying, screw this. Let's go steal that thing. Let's get rid of it.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get that dummy.
Tomorrow night?
Sarah knows that Harold was scared before this, and all of a sudden he's confident and like basically evil.
We're in serious danger. Ever since he found the dummy, he changed. He told me he was scared. Yeah, because it's evil.
So they're putting it together that the doll is the reason why. So they're okay. Let's take it off of him. We see the events of that night unfold.
Goodbye, little idiot.
Goodbye to you, little idiot.
And this is the third time now, 3 different perspectives of that night. Each time it gets a little more clear on what actually happened. So this did seem like they didn't want to hurt him.
The doll's evil.
We can't leave yet. We gotta help Harold. Harold!
Harold!
We gotta help!
Harold! Stay away from me!
He doesn't understand. We're trying to help him.
They really didn't want to hurt him, but he died. And if they didn't go there that night, he wouldn't have died. So it's basically their fault. So that's what I was saying earlier. Everything that they did led to him being trapped in a basement, being set on fire.
He's gone.
Yeah. Is it all Sarah's fault then? Because she told him all the secrets, and if they hadn't been called out, they probably wouldn't want to take this dummy anywhere. So
if you want to narrow it down to one person, it would be a majority of her fault. Yeah.
Good job, Margot's mom.
Yeah, good job.
Everything.
We get that. Obviously, Harold, who has possessed Nathan, he sees this as your parents are murderers. They see it as, well, they didn't really mean to do it.
Yeah, and that's really good because it means they're not like real murderers, which is great.
What? Yes, they were.
They were really trying to help you. It was all kind of a big accident, but also they covered it up and lied about it for how many years? So it's like, they're not really in the right.
Who's gonna believe that's an accident? And they're a bunch of kids. Like,
yeah,
you can't tell me that you wouldn't be like, hey, maybe we could just sweep that under the rug.
Right, exactly. It doesn't look good either way, and you understand Harold's feelings about this.
Are you kidding? Your parents were the evil ones.
And then the kids in the present time, they're like, oh, that's why Harold's trying to kill us. And then Nathan/Harold's like, yep, you got it. And they're like, okay, well, they didn't really mean to do it. And then Margot's like, well, how do you know all this stuff?
How do you know all of this?
And then he just reveals to everyone, well, I'm not actually Nathan. I'm not actually Mr. Bratt. I'm Harold Biddle. And he shows his true form.
I'm not Mr. Bratt.
I'm Harold Biddle.
So that's where we end up. And he scares the shit out of them. I don't know where it's going to go from here. We have 4 episodes left, 7, 8, 9, and 10. They really built up to like a breaking point right now. Do they escape from that house? Like, what happens in the future? I don't know. It's going to be interesting.
I don't know, because Because have they each had their own little individual story of like something messing with them?
Pretty much, yeah. All the main characters anyway. Yeah.
Even Isaiah's dad?
Not Isaiah's dad. No.
I was gonna say I didn't think anything happened to him.
Not him. So yeah, probably something will happen to him. I don't know if you're gonna see any major deaths. Really? I don't know if that's gonna happen. That was
my next question. Like, I know this is not necessarily aimed towards kids, but I feel like a lot of people would be mad if people got killed off in this show.
I think so too. I don't really see it. I mean, Harold got killed off in the first couple seconds of the show. So like, I don't know.
You know, that's fair.
And they ended up killing him in the process.
Yeah, so it could happen. it could happen. We'll see. But what do you guys think? What's going to happen? Because this point here, everything was kind of building towards this point. So like, what now? We got 4 episodes left. We got all this. So what now? Are they going to escape? Are more things in the house going to take over? Or is it going to be like a huge thing that goes after the whole town? Like what are we building towards now? So what do you guys think? Let us know in the comments. Let us know if you're enjoying it. If you think the nostalgia is worth it for them to have made this show in the first place, or if you think they should have just left it alone. I think it's fine. It's doing the original justice more than the movies were. So why not do it?
I would agree.
We have 7, 8, 9, and 10 of this show coming up. And then November 10th, we're going to start covering For All Mankind. Very excited for that. Please subscribe if you like this. Please like it and have a great day. Thanks for listening. See you next time. Later.
Bye, guys.
You kids of this era with your cell phones and YouTubes, it's like, no focus. You can't focus on a really good story.
Well, that was a gas.